You're listening to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Calandra Martin, intuitive brand designer for spiritual entrepreneurs. The Magnetic Boss Podcast is where visionaries come together to openly share wisdom and authentic conversations. I know that you are ready to leave your legacy in the world and become sought out in your industry. I also know that you are sick and tired of getting overlooked. You're ready to have a magnetic business. I'm here to help you create your magnetic brand. It's my mission to help you show up confidently with a professional, irresistible online presence. If you're in this for the long game and all in on the big vision you have for your business, let's dive in.
This week has been an emotional roller coaster, and honestly, not in the best way possible. This is something that I shared on social media, and I felt really called to share it here with you on the podcast as well. I'll give you the quick summary of what has been going on here. So the other day, I made a public announcement of changes that I was really excited about at Magnetic Boss Studio. And I shared how excited I was to be offered a position, a full-time position with a really cushy salary that I couldn't say no to, for a global health company. And I had my hopes up. I was really looking forward to this. I had made the necessary arrangements to bring our nanny on full time. I had been looking at my schedule with my clients and making shifts in that regard. And today, I'm sharing that I'm really, truly frustrated, disappointed, enraged, and quite honestly, a little embarrassed. And this is a hard thing to speak. I am reading the post that I wrote on social media. If you're following on Facebook or Instagram, you've seen this, but I've been bamboozled. It was sneaky, it was super convincing, and it was sketchy as fuck. I just have such an ick feeling about this, and sure, I could sweep this under the rug, I could forget about it. My husband said to me, not everybody needs to know what happened, you can just move on with your life, when I was talking with him about this last night. But I want everyone to know about this tactic. I want everyone to be aware of the potential dangers, because I did not think that I was at risk. I did not think that this is what was happening. And I consider myself to be a pretty knowledgeable person. I consider myself to be a pretty educated person when it comes to the online space. So the fact that this happened to me means that it could happen to anybody. So the people that contacted me about this, what I'll say quote unquote position, were not actually from the company that they said that they were. Now, I did apply for a position at this company, so it would make sense for me to receive an email from them. This wasn't completely out of the blue. It was an application I had applied and a position I had applied for, just on a whim. And I can give you the whole backstory on that, but I won't go into that today. But I made an application and I received an email. And what happened was that they used a fake domain address. So their email, although it was very, very similar to the domain that this company actually uses, it was not the same. And these people went to great lengths to convince me that this was a legitimate job opportunity. I am talking multiple conversations, in-depth written conversations, emails. I went through a text interview. I went through a phone interview with the quote-unquote brand operations manager. I was given details on the company's structure. I was given details on how the company was expanding in 2025 and what the role included, what my role was going to be. I received benefit package details. I received a contract. I was sent tax information. Everything that I received from these people was extremely legitimate, or at least I thought so. And because it felt legitimate, and because I thought it was, I sent all of my information over to them. And this is the part where I am kicking myself in the ass, because I now have to do the legwork of dealing with this. But here's where the red flag came in. So I was offered the position. I went through these interviews. I was offered the position. I filled out the paperwork. I was told my start date and that I would be going through 2 weeks of training. And I was then told that they were going to equip me with the devices that I needed. Very standard remote position for a social media manager devices. A laptop, headphones, a microphone, a security system, all of those things that you would expect. And then this is where my intuition started to scream at me. They told me how to go about getting the devices I needed for the job before my training. And this was all through a text conversation. They said that they would mail me a check and have me order the devices through their partners. And they also said that they were going to reimburse me for a mobile plan through their carrier partners. And when we were having this conversation, I was met with confusion on how the process worked, so I asked clarifying questions. And ultimately, what they had said was that they were going to speak with HR and get back to me about verifying the check being sent to me. And I went to bed that night and I felt really off. Something was not sitting right, and I knew it when I was having the conversation with the quote-unquote woman that I was talking to. I don't even know if this was a real person. Her name was Vicky, supposedly. She told me to call her Vic, and my intuition was screaming at me. I was up all night. I was up all night thinking about, one, what it would mean for me to take on this position, how it was going to change our lives, because that in itself was a big emotional leap to take, because I love my business. And it was almost too bittersweet to say yes to this position, but it felt like it was too good to be true. Like, how can you say no to that kind of salary? How can you say no to that opportunity, especially because of our personal goals in our family this year? We are going to be buying a house this year. We have 3 young children. So yes, of course, I want to be able to support them as much as I can financially. And this seemed like a really easy transition to make that allowed me to move away from some of the done-for-you work that I offer at Magnetic Boss Studio. So back to the story, I went to bed and I was up all night tossing and turning and thinking. And then I woke up that morning and I did some digging because I felt really called to just look into this. If something felt off for me, and I do this in any area of my life, I take the time to sit with that and ask why. And it was one of those, oh shit, like what did I just get myself into moments? And as I was doing the research, it became very clear there were multiple indications that this was a scam all along. As I mentioned, the domain email was not the company's domain email. And this one really threw me for a loop because I usually pay attention to this, right? I am usually very on top of noticing, especially when it comes to branding, what somebody's logo looks like and what their domain is and the language that they're using. And everything else fell in line. All of their documents had the logo on it. All of their documents had the information that at a glance looked to be accurate. But I got caught up in the excitement of possibility. The address on the paperwork that they had shared with me, not accurate. It did link to a complex of health companies that are in these offices in California, but they were not the actual addresses for this company. And the employees that I had supposedly talked to, pretty sure they're not even real people. Nowhere could I find them in an online search just by looking up their name. And what was complicated about this is when you look at the health company's actual social media, and when you look at things like LinkedIn, which typically shows you their employees, there's nothing to be found there. And so the company that I had applied for was a legitimate company, but because there was so little information, it was really hard to do my due diligence in the beginning of understanding the company structure and who I was speaking to and any of those things. So yeah, no employees to be found, and definitely not the employees that I was supposedly talking to. And so I emailed them my concerns in a very professional manner, just asking to pause the onboarding process so that I could get some clarity on some of the things that didn't really line up. And then I was ghosted. Did not hear back. did not hear back through the multiple avenues of communication that I was having with them. I was talking with them on Microsoft Teams. I was talking with them through email and got no response aside from, we'll look at your email and get back to you soon. So I spent the majority of my day yesterday contacting the Social Security Administration, notifying the Federal Trade Commission. I had to go about closing my bank accounts because I had sent them everything. My routing number, my account numbers. I had to lock my credit. And I did my due diligence to make damn sure that these fuckers did not get my information, that they did not have access to anything that I had given them. So my bank accounts have been closed. Everything has been locked. My passwords are being reset on every platform across the board, which is a big pain in the ass. And I did email the actual health company that I have been referring to, and I will keep their name at the discretion for privacy purposes. I don't want to call them out for any reason because honestly, they had nothing to do with this. And if they want to hire me after this, awesome. But I did notify them to inform them that there was fraud happening on their behalf and that I had reported it. So, yeah, it has been crazy over here. It has been absolutely crazy. So I went through this emotional up and down roller coaster of, I'm going to continue my business. I'm not going to continue my business in the way that I've been continuing my business. And then right back at it to, not only do I get to continue my business in the way that I've been running it, but I actually really have to figure it out because I burnt it to the ground this week. I told my clients that their contracts were ending this week. I paused all payment renewals this week. So on paper, right now, my business is at a zero. I do have clients that I'm fulfilling contracts for, and I anticipate that they will renew their contracts and we will continue our relationship. But my books are so open that it is terrifying. But this is my update today. I am back and I'm not going anywhere. And I knew that I wasn't going anywhere all along. And this is the thing that makes me crazy. It makes me crazy because I knew deep down before any of the red flags popped up with this opportunity that I did not want to say goodbye to my business. And I was scrambling to figure out how I could run my business while also having this full-time position and taking on that salary. So after everything that happened, I will be damned if I let this knock me off my feet. Magnetic Bus Studio will be resuming as normal, but better than ever before. I'm going to be offering extended contracts to my clients, like I had mentioned, telling them earlier this week that I was stepping away. We're going to retract that statement. And my books are officially open for design projects, social media management, and so many more things. I am so freaking excited. Next week, we are launching something extra exciting at Magnetic Bus Studio. I've been keeping this under wraps as a collaboration with my best friend, Jen. You've heard her here on the podcast, and we've been working on something magical. I've been teasing this out a little bit on social media. So stay tuned for that. Next week, we'll be sharing more with you. And I just want to say, yes, business is resuming as usual. Yes, I need to be bringing on these clients because that is my livelihood, and I'm really, really ramped up to go all in at this stage. But more importantly, I am so deeply appreciative of all of the support, the love, the reassurance from my family, from my close friends, and from my community. Those of you that have been following along for weeks, months, years, you've been there for me through the ups and downs, through the celebration and the crashing fall of expectation. And honestly, if it weren't for having my own business, this experience probably would have crushed me. And it's still really hard to wrap my brain around, and it's still a tender subject. But instead of letting that run my mindset, it is fueling my fire, and it is fueling my fire because of you. This experience is giving me the tenacity to hit the income goals that I want to make, create the impact that I want to create, and to let that be the ripple effect. Because I know without a shadow of a doubt that everything that I do in my business is ultimately for you. every lesson that I learn, every failure that I have, every experience that I go through, it is to share that with you, to help you amplify your vision and your mission and your purpose here in the world. So hang on tight. The roller coaster is about to get pretty wild in the best possible way. I am so here for it. I hope you are too. I appreciate all of your comments and love on social media in this journey, and just stay tuned because bigger and better things are coming, and I can't wait to share it with you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you are listening so you never miss a beat. For episode show notes, visit calandramartin.com/podcast. Your iTunes reviews and your sharing of the show helps us reach more magnetic bosses just like you. Until next time.